Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to the show. On today's episode, we are going to be bridging the gap between spirituality and business and share that there really is no distinction between the two because it is my belief. Maybe it's your belief too.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
That everything is spiritual. And so, leading us and supporting us in this conversation today, we have Jessian Titus, who is the owner of Vagari Vati, which is a global fashion house. Jessian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, today, we're definitely going to bring the energy and we're going to be bringing the gems. Jessian is actually a friend of mine, and we have been on our own spiritual journey. And we've had so many different intersections in our path that we'd like to build and share with you today on the insights that have come along as we build our empires.
Absolutely. That's the best thing to say what we're building, right? Very true.
So, Jessian, tell us a little bit about Vagari Vati, how it started, what does the name Vagari Vati mean, and what is the mission of Vagari Vati in the world?
Whoa, that's the whole episode right there. Okay, so where we could start is I guess it started in the root of inspiration from spending a lot of time with my grandmother growing up. And she went to college in Puerto Rico for fashion design, and then she spent her whole life in the industry, and then later becoming like a professor and teacher of fashion and design. And watching her projects really inspired me because it made me recognize that we actually have the ability to build and create the world around us through like design. And that made me believe that I wanted to do something like that at some point in my journey. I would want to at least like design my own pieces, curtains, do fabrication, all that kind of design stuff. And slowly over time, things have happened to align for that to happen. And I think the big jump that pushed me into the design world is like 2020. I had a huge shift from like my general career, which was in diplomacy, into working in interior design. How that happened, that's a whole episode in itself. But that's when I started having the design experience and seeing what it is to be a designer. And then what took things into the next direction was at some point I went to support one of my friends, like I think it was a full moon program. And during that full moon I ended up making friends with a designer from Victoria's Secret, and then getting incredible mentorship about everything from, you know, garment construction to the supply chain and manufacturing process, and how to pitch to financial boards. So the whole thing, and I got to live at this like cool beach house, and I had New York City on the horizon, and I knew that when I would move back to New York, I would start building and start deepening my studies. And then at some point, I ended up moving to India for like 6 months and traveling and studying. And I ended up having this like awakening of, if not now, then when. And that's been the story from there. Yeah, a lot of like small details, but that's the general. And once I made my way back to the US, I doubled down on my work, and then I'm going to make this thing really launch it soon. And I said to myself that I'm going to launch it in the beginning of 2026, and then just make everything that I've been working on like manifest forward. And at the end of the year, I knew that I wanted to create a strong international team and international as well supply chain, etc. And then I went on a long like 7, 8 country tour, and then I ended it in Toronto, Canada, and just took the bus across the border. I hired an amazing project manager. From there, we had a meeting with some dope people, and we got the opportunity to do New York Fashion Week, and then from there, like that opened an insane amount of doors, and now we have a ridiculous amount of shows lined up. We have a few shows this month here in New York and in London. Then we have shows coming up in Morocco, in Miami, in Athens, and then some stuff happening in Japan a little bit later in the year. And I'm super excited to end the year in Dhaka in Bangladesh for Fashion Week there. That's the goal.
Incredible. Have you ever read the book, The Celestine Prophecy?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It really makes me think about the book, The Celestine Prophecy, because it's a book that talks about insights. And one of the insights was the revelation of synchronicity and how when you follow the pull, that it opens all of these incredible doors for you inside of you and all around you. And, it's funny that you made this connection at a full moon party or gathering,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Because
do you know Rama?
Maybe.
There was a popular Kundalini yoga studio.
Oh, yeah, Rama Yoga.
Yeah, that's where I actually made that connection.
Amazing, right?
Honestly, yoga studios are underrated in terms of making amazing connections.
What I would say to align with that is if you're following the call of your soul and you're following the things that pull you, you can make the connections that you need to make wherever you're at. You are the signal that's sending it out. And if you're following your heart, which we'll get into the spiritual path that has supported the alignment of all of this, that is what opens doors, right? It's the doors that you have opened inside of you that opens the doors outside of you.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what does Vagari Vati mean and where did you get the name?
I wanted to find a name that kind of speaks to my lifestyle, and I wanted to be a name that also kind of blends the spirit of what I want people who engage with our products feel. And I wanted something that was synonymous to nomadic. And because I...
Definitely a nomad.
He's definitely
He's always somewhere in the world.
So true, and I wanted that to be the case for it. And so Vagari, Vaga means like nomad, it means to wander. And Vagari, it means the wandering of. And then, so that's Latin. And then in the other term, Vati is is the prefix that we see for Vatican. So Vati is Latin for like prophet. So
the wandering prophet.
Wandering prophet or prophetic wandering. Why I chose these two words is because while these two words are both Latin, they're also Sanskrit. So the word Vati is both a Sanskrit word and a Latin word. And Vagari is both a Latin and a Sanskrit word. Both of these two languages, Latin and Sanskrit, are mother languages. They've birthed a ridiculous amount of languages, and they are what I would say is the king and queen languages of the West and the East. So to bridge the two, I wanted to take two words that both have meaning in both languages, but also function as a functionable name. So in Sanskrit, Vagari means to reside, or a place of dwelling or residence. And then Vati is like the quality of. So it means something to the similar of the one or that which feels like home. So it then plays off of each other prophetically, the idea of the one who wanders and the one that feels like home.
You spoke about something that's really important is the original language, the original sound, right? Because sound is frequency, and frequency is what is running the whole show here on planet Earth. You also spoke about feeling at home. And as we're connecting the dots with frequency, many people are unaware that the clothes that we wear, and I'm guilty, I'm probably wearing some clothes right now that is probably not of the highest frequency. The cloth that we put on our skin also is affecting our vibrational field.
Absolutely.
You know, so this mission that you have to bring essentially high vibrational clothes and sustainable
Yes.
fashion to the world, it's such an important topic. And, you know, I know for myself, I've had a lot of challenges, especially going deeper into my spiritual journey where these things have become revelations and insights and guidelines that are like, hey, if you follow this, you will live in alignment with a different level of truth or consciousness.
Yep.
You know, I'm very much in both worlds, right? I also enjoy some of the fashion and the luxury of modern fashion, but I will say that it's a voice that has been louder and louder as my journey proceeds of like, you need to be mindful of fast fashion. I do find myself conflicted with that, but I don't think there's any coincidence that the world around me continues to communicate that to me, that
For sure.
we should be mindful of how we're consuming because we can see on the bigger scope of the creation, it has this bigger ripple out into the world. And so one of the things that your brand represents is sustainability. So can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about where that comes from and what you hope to achieve?
So there's internal sustainability and there's external sustainability. One thing I would say where this really sits with me and my choice in textiles, especially for what I want others to feel when they wear, is my relationship to my meditation. When I first started teaching yoga, one thing that sparked my interest in designing garments is designing clothes that feel more breathable. That was something that I wanted to explore, as well as working with cotton and natural fibers. And there's a wide range of textiles we can be working with in the world, but the industry functions from such a narrow place. It functions from a very, what I would call a very reactive place. And then reactive spaces are repetitious spaces. They will continue to repeat patterns that they know works. And that's why it does not scale outside of it, because it continues to practice what has been proven rather than exploring what can be seen. So if we work, and this is a little tangential, but most of the seeds that God has put on this planet can all be turned into fibers.
Mm.
It's just that we haven't explored them. So, for example, linen. Linen is made with flax seeds, but something that is as similar to flax seeds structurally and molecular wise is pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are actually very similar to flax seeds. You could be making a linen based out of pumpkin seeds, but no one has tried to do it or talk about it. I'm just telling you this based off of my own knowledge, and I never thought about it before this conversation, but like just giving you as an example, there's much to be explored. And how this ties to my meditative practices, I've noticed that the clothes that I meditate in shapes my meditation. It's like the more because any type of spiritual practice is a practice of deepening your sensitivity to awareness, right? Either material awareness or internal awareness or even metaphysical awareness. All of these things become more sensitive. And when I was in Mahakumbh, when I was in Kumbh Mela, you know what Kumbh Mela is, right?
Mm-mm.
So Kumbh Mela, okay. So Kumbh Mela is this yogic gathering that happens every 12 years. And in Kumbh Mela, all the different yogis and mystics from around India and from regions surrounding India, like in Nepal, Bhutan, and etc., they all gather at Prayagraj. And Prayagraj is this place where the three holy rivers of India meets, which is the Yamuna, the Ganges, and the Saraswati River. And they meet there for about 6 weeks, and it's just like, it's kind of like a Burning Man experience, but a Burning Man experience of mystics. And there's a wide range of things that are happening there. It's a whole other world. It's like a city that gets built, and it just exists there for 6 weeks of the festival. And it happens every 12 years because of the movement of Jupiter, and it takes Jupiter one full rotation. So they're watching the stars and waiting for it to get back to that position. But this last year, right, that just passed was Mahakumbh. And Mahakumbh Mela, meaning the greater Kumbh Mela, happens every 144 years because that's every 12 cycles of Jupiter. And if it takes Jupiter 12 years to go around, it takes 144 years for that one festival to come about. And last year, that was the biggest festival in the recorded history. And it had 600 million people that came through.
Mm.
Yeah, which is like close to a billion, which is insane. But when I was there, I got to study and live with a lot of different monastics, a lot of different monks I got to be with. And one thing I was studying was in the morning, I would go for Bhagavatam classes. Bhagavatam is a spiritual scripture from the Vaishnava tradition. And during this, one of the monks had mentioned that one of the best things you could do for your meditation practice is to wear unstitched clothing. And unstitched clothing comes either in the form in the yogic practice of either the sari or the dhoti. And you would wear this in your practice because something about the stitching of clothing affects the energy field.
Mm.
And it should be made of fine fibers, not anything that is plastic or polyester or petroleum based. And I heard that, and the minute I heard that, I decided, like, okay, you know what? That means I want to get a dhoti. So then I decided that I would go get it, and then I experienced this. And then the minute I experienced it, I was like, whoa, this is a huge shift. And then from that, like, I would start, as I was traveling, people would just, like, gift me dhotis and stuff like that. And now I'm just, like, a dhoti addict. Like, so,
No, I feel you because I think, even as a woman, and this goes for all around, but there is a freedom in wearing certain clothing. Like, you feel lighter, you feel more open, you feel more free, more flowy. So there is a science to how what we're adorning ourselves with, the
Yes.
sacred adornments that we put on our body, is affecting also the flow in which is moving through us.
Mm-hmm. And our ancestors understood this. It's also all across scripture. Well, first I'll start with this point. In the Bible, the first people to receive the Holy Spirit, I think you've heard this before, were artists. Have you heard this?
No,
Yeah, it
tell
was
me.
not it wasn't prophets, it wasn't priests, it wasn't even the shepherds, but it was artists. Artists were the first to receive the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit it's the Shakti, it's the creative intelligence of God that when it's breathed into you, you have a sense of like higher union. The reason why God breathed the Holy Spirit into artists is because civilization is not something that man creates, but it's something that God breathes into man. And when that's breathed into us, it's for the first part of civilization are artists, because artists creates the culture, and then the culture creates the container or the consciousness for civilization.
That's so powerful. You often hear artists saying, I'm not the one creating.
Oh yeah,
I am
absolutely.
just the vessel receiving the creation. I think it was Michael Jackson that said when he gets the download or the idea streaming through him, I know Prince is getting the same
Yeah.
stream, so I got to act on this right now, because it is a stream of consciousness. And so I think this is an important message. Continue to allow the artist within to thrive and to express.
Yes, absolutely. And when we look at the history of fashion, something that is one of the most ancient of arts. One, we don't give enough credit to how ancient art is. Art predates the sciences. If anything, art gave birth to the sciences, and then the sciences gave birth to academics. So like when you're tapping into that artistic paradigm, you are connecting with the forefather or the foremother of all of creative works. So one of the first things when Moses was receiving the downloads to create the tabernacle in the wilderness was God showed him how to create what the high priests will wear. That's one of the first thing, and that what fiber to use, that it must be made of hemp, that it must be hemp robes and then they must have a belt, a sash belt made of hemp, and then they also must wear a turban to cover their head. There's a deep connection between, you know, mysticism and fashion, that the way we construct our garments shapes the way the energy will flow in our body and how we can be a transmitter and transmission. That's why when we look at all traditions, like a shamanic high priestess of the Navajo tradition to even the Pope of the Vatican, there's always been this high fashion sense that the mystic would then carry so that they can be in attunement both energetically and aesthetically, because how you dress shows up on how you feel, and how you feel completely attracts how God speaks to you.
It's so beautifully expressed.
Yeah.
So you were bridging the gap between this and meditation. So can we elaborate on that? How has your meditation practice or journey expanded what you're doing now?
I have to say, pretty much in every way. I see my practice as the center of my wheel. So you have your dharmic wheel, right? If you ever seen the Dharma wheel, the vision of it, where it's this wheel and has these spokes. So why it's called the dharmic wheel is because at the center of the wheel you have your sadhana or your practice, and then everything jutting out from that are your principles and your paths. Your principles being whatever your values are, and your paths being whatever is your occupational value that you put out and do. It's this idea that if you're keeping your practice, everything else will turn around you naturally, and your practice will keep all the spokes in alignment, and you'll create a gravitational force or less toroidal field by maintaining your proper internal rhythm will keep all things around you in rhythm. So because of that, my meditation is the substratum, it's the foundational field that I build upon and create from. How I organize my meditation space shapes the way I would design spaces for interior design, and influence that, but also how I connect with the clothing I wear for my meditation shapes my interest in how I want to design pieces, which is things that feel breathable, things that make you feel free, things that don't feel restrictive. My meditation helped me to recognize design gaps. So one thing that meditation provides you, it gives you almost like a microscopic lens of insight, of introspection. So you're able to see deeper into the things you look at and see where are what I would call the creative gaps. And what I see as design gaps, I would call them also market gaps. That if we can address where this design could be expounded upon, we can actually bring more beauty into that. And that's the same thing that we find in meditation. Meditation helps you to see your own design gaps in your own life. When you take that time for clearing your mind and you see things more clearly, and you become more contemplative and contemplative on your own life, you see those design gaps and you're like, you know what? That time I have in the morning, I think I could fill it with this. Or, after eating food, what if I pray afterwards to thank God? Because maybe praying before my food is not just enough. So you start seeing the design gaps in your own life when you meditate, and that highly, for me, translates into my design practice.
Yeah, it's like creating more space for the creator to speak.
That too.
One of the things that I deeply benefit from my practice is the ability to move worlds. The internal world, like clearing the energetic residue of whatever is unresolved or whatever, as you spoke about the gaps. And there's so much work that you can do in your meditation practice that moves things on the physical, right?
Absolutely.
So like you do it on the spiritual plane, and then it starts to rearrange, as you said, in the physical, because your consciousness shifts. And if your consciousness is shifting, what you pay attention to, the signals that you get, all of the things that are guiding your day unfold very differently because it's in alignment with this internal harmony that's happening. And I believe there is something called like the divine matrix or the divine design. And when you're creating space to be in alignment with that divine design, you are playing your role, your part in humanity. And your note, your symphonic note can create beautiful harmonies in whatever you're doing, right? Whether it's in the realm of fashion, the job, whether it's in the role of a wife or a husband, you start to bring that alignment into everything you do. And so we can see how our spiritual practice is the root.
You first start feeling it inside, but then after a while it catches up with you and you start feeling it on the outside. So one thing I see is my practice is my real business. Everything else is a byproduct of it.
I love that.
The supply chain starts from within. You have to work on the inner manufacturing, you have to be organizing the factory from here. And because everything that you produce from in here will shape what you're producing in your relationships, what you're producing for your opportunities, what you're producing in terms of the expectations, all of that. But if that's clean, that's clear, everything that comes out of you will be brilliant.
So meditation is the pathway to divine creation.
Yeah, the way I see it, and I would tell this to anybody who wants to build their meditation practice and they want to start to see the intersections of business and spirituality for themselves clearly without me having to drop the codes. The minute you start seeing that you get paid to meditate, everything else will make sense. If you just believe that you actually are getting paid to meditate, you'll start picking up the codes, and it's what's really going on? that God sent you on this mission to wake up, and he's actually going to provide you all the tools in your awakening. It's just that you have to be consistent in the way you show up for yourself. God, everything else will show up for you and with you.
I love that so much. One of the conversations that has been really active in a lot of my clients and in my world is around safety and this idea of not feeling safe or feeling safe. And what creates safety essentially is the ability to show up for yourself and not abandon yourself and keep your word to yourself and do these things. And so this kind of practice keeps you accountable.
Devotion is such a strong pillar for safety.
I find for myself, everyone has a different practice. That meditation is one of those ways that really roots me and grounds me into that. And, maybe we can explore the different avenues of meditation, because I think sometimes people have a very distorted idea of what they think meditation is, and it makes it often feel distant from what they think they can do. So can you talk to us a little bit about meditation?
Sure. So with meditation, if we start, because I love words, I love language. The term meditation, one, is a Christian word, but the practice that I do is a yogic, it's a Hindu practice. The term of what I do is dhyana, right? So it somewhat translates, but the practice of meditation is, whether you're looking at in the Western or Eastern traditions, right? It's about beginning to still yourself so that you can hear everything else more clearly. And there's this really beautiful statement that ties back to the Christian tradition of meditation, is that prayer is when we speak to God, meditation is when God speaks to us. It's a very great term, and and this is tied, the Christian meditation practice is tied to Hesychism, and but the practice, what I practice is in the yogic sense of meditation, it's heavily tied to what I would call internal alchemy. So that's when we are working with kriyas. So kriyas are different practices that helps to open up the subtle channels. So we have our physical nervous system, but then we have an energetic nervous system. So then when we're working with these subtle channels, we're helping to refine the physical channel. So it's you're cultivating the software so that the hardware can operate in a more efficient and qualitative manner. But this is the more mystical side of meditation. But on the more, let's say, practical, general sense of meditation, what we're trying to develop is a sense of equanimity, a sense of unmovable or sturdy stillness. Why is this practical? Because we know that the three biggest, should I say, hellhounds of society right now is depression, anxiety, and nihilism. If you don't know what nihilism is it's this sense of hopelessness or meaning, lack of meaning. And then people are trying to chase and create meaning, but doing it in like low vibrational ways. So these are the very three heavy things, and meditation has this ability to address depression, anxiety, and nihilism. And for example, with anxiety, it usually comes from a lack of inner stillness. And when we can develop stillness both in the body and mind and have a practice of it, and being able to regulate ourselves regularly, it becomes a byproduct of who we are. Because I'm sure you've heard this term before, but whatever we do frequently creates our frequency. And anxiety is coming from a place of like static like energy. And then the same thing with depression. The way depression, it's kind of like almost like an anaconda. It's like heavy. It wraps itself around you and it constricts you. And it's these weighted thoughts that you feel like you can't shake. It's a weighted feeling that you are carrying with you. It's almost like you're throughout the day, you're carrying this load on you. What releases this is the more clear-minded we are, the harder anything in this world can stick to you. So whatever comes about your day is not able to hold on you because your clarity has raised your consciousness to a place that normal things cannot grasp you. You develop a natural sense of detachment. That's what it is. You develop a sense of detachment and discernment. So when you have detachment and discernment, detachment helps you to release your personal attachment to your feelings and things that have happened to you. But the discernment that comes with clarity, it allows you to properly see that what was happening was not there against you, but it actually is there for you. That everything that's happening to you is helping you to see who you need to be for the next situation, and that you're actually being led to your greater self if you're able to integrate the things that come to you properly. And then on the case of nihilism and this feeling a sense of meaninglessness, is that meditation gives you discipline. And when you naturally start to develop discipline, you develop a proclivity towards purpose. You actually then gain a tasteful outlook on purpose, because when you start doing something regularly and you prioritize it, the minute you start prioritizing something, you start developing meaning around priority. And that's the thing, when people are looking for meaning in life, the first thing they should look for is their priority structure. What is your value chain? What's your pyramid in terms of like the things that you want to uphold in your life, and at what levels do they stand? And when you find that which you want to put on top of everything else, all other things become structured. And that's the beautiful thing about the world, is it's very metaphysical, and it works very much from top down rather from down up. So whatever you put on the top, life will give you things to foundation that. And from there, the minute you make that thing your top priority, meaning will chase you. And slowly, the more you feed it, you will naturally lead a meaningful life, especially when you found that thing and keeping that main thing the main thing.
So good. Can you speak to us about the different forms of meditation? Because I think oftentimes people think it's just, I'm sitting here, and there's many different ways to meditate. And people are meditating throughout their day and may not even recognize they're meditating.
We're always in and out of meditation. Meditation is whatever you choose to fix your mind on. So there's two types of meditation, you can say, in terms of the internal experience. It's either voidism or absorption, or like, or should I say absorption, but absorption is both, but singularity. So you're either trying to put your consciousness into a state of singularity, finding a fixed point of absorption into that, or voidism, it's the dissolution of the mind into emptiness. So those are the two kinds, and you can practice that in whatever you do. So these are the two styles of focus one can have. Do they want to dissolve into what they're doing, or become the refined point in everything that is being done? And while me in my personal life, I practice in more the orthodox sense, but I also help me to recognize that when I'm not practicing it consciously, it's also happening unconsciously. And it's very much based on the world we build around us. So everything that you're taking in and the time you give to your attention to is a meditation in itself. So what you put in your mind through when you're watching the news, your mind is meditating on that. But does your mind have the ability to meditate on it from a place of detachment? Or is it meditating on something from a place of attachment?
Mm.
So we're always in that motion. And the thing is, too, with meditation is when we have even artistic practices, how we still our mind to focus on something that we care about, that's a meditation. When we hug our friends, our family, our loved ones, that's a meditation in itself. It's having the ability to be fully present, whether to dissolve into it or experience a point of singularity from it.
Amazing. So, as you're building your empire, your global
you.
fashion house,
Thank you.
what are some challenges that you find that you face, and how has this practice supported you?
So I am a person that doesn't really have worries, don't really have anxieties and all that kind of stuff. I'm vibing, man. But I have to recognize that other people do. And it's going beyond my like astute asceticism and having to develop myself to not just be a container for my own well-being, but expanding as a container for the well-being of others. And being able to manage other people's anxieties is important, other people's concerns. It's like you can have a meeting and somebody says something, like let's say there's a negotiation happening. Somebody's inner voice might say, oh, I think this person's going to be doing this. This person's trying to get over on us, da 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 da. The minute somebody has that internal thought, they're going to share with me what their worries are, what their doubts are. And it's, even though I may not agree with what I see is happening, or maybe I don't even want to give energy to the possibilities of what they could be feeling, but I don't want to disengage them from their own internal connection. I want to support it and I want to explore that. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what's happening here, what you're feeling. Let's look into this. So this has helped me to increase my emotional intelligence as a person. And having, I guess, a stronger sense of emotional intelligence, it has also helped me to be a bit more rigid in the sense of what I want to entertain, what I don't want to entertain. And how this ties back to my meditation practice is that I'm no longer meditating for my own internal stability, but it's also meditating for the stability I can hold for others. Mm-hmm. It's like I have my boat now, but now that is pretty steady, but now I have to be able to expand my arc to be able to carry others in that sense of internal stability, meaning that no matter if somebody else feels rocked, that their rocking does not rock the greater boat. Mm-hmm. Because that means if I get rocked, that means that other people will then, feed into that.
Mm-hmm. It's like in these situations where so much discord can occur, you still know how to be the alchemist and transform that energy into an energy that is productive or that keeps things moving forward.
And it's also having the willingness. So the other thing with meditation and the insight it gives you, when you start to see your own potency more clearly, you then are able to see the potencies of others more clearly. And what has come about due to my practice is questioning, when I see some rocking with this person, are they holding a position that properly aligns with their potency? So when it comes down to you're only as strong as your weakest link, I think that that's a good diagnostic. But what's the medicine? And the medicine is recognizing that probably you're having that person play in the wrong position. You're having people play as linebacks when they probably should be quarterbacks. You're having people play midfielder when they probably should have been the goalie. So that's really what it is. And I think the problem with, some people in business is they feel like if somebody is not operating at the level they want them to operate, then they just need to drop them, and go on. And I'm thinking like that's a waste of resource. If anything, we can have a form of restorative justice and then actually see first also see what their vision is, lean into them. Like, what do you see? What do you want? And then how can we meet in that place that bridges maybe the needs that I didn't even notice?
Beautiful. And this is touching on conscious leadership.
Absolutely.
Right? How can you empower someone to shine in their gift and still be a contributor and have a voice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think God has initiated everyone with innate brilliance, innate genius. The thing is that they have to be connected to that voice. If that, because, in the ancient times, the word genius wasn't this material logic concept of having a great intellect. It was this idea that you're actually a channel and a transmitter for the logos, right? The collective intelligence of the universe. And that you're somebody who's a genius is somebody who's able to tune in to that particular frequency of collective intelligence that the universe carries. And I'm super focused on wanting to help people turn up that dial for themselves so they can start hearing it more and more clearly. And one of the three aspects of my business ethos is dreams, destiny, and paradise. And the one that I wanted to speak to is dreams. I want to make sure that anybody that I work with, I'm helping them get closer to their own dreams, because that's how we bridge the gap between heaven and earth.
Love that. So we are moving towards a completion. Is there anything that you would like us to know about where you're going with the brand and what people can look forward to, and even maybe a spiritual nugget? I mean, you've given us so much to sit with.
Right now, we are heavily focused on doing a lot of show production. And when you're focused on show production, it's a really good way of scaling yourself into the high fashion world. But we are going to soon launch our e-com work as well as some of our retail work, and we're excited to be opening that up really soon. I think the last thing I'll give in terms of spiritual nuggets is just remembering that the minute you decide to devote yourself to a spiritual practice, let your life be led by that, and then recognize that your material life and your prosperity will come naturally if you see that you are actually being paid to do this practice. And this practice is meant to give you the insights and the magnetism and the aura for everything else that's meant to come for you.
It's giving wealth from within. Okay, so we're gonna leave it on that note. And so where can people find you? How can they discover your products? And if there's any way that they can support what you're doing, where can we do that?
Go on IG, go to vagari.vati.
All right, Vagari Vati, the homecoming.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessian, for joining us today and sharing so much of your wisdom and everything that you've cultivated. And it certainly shows in the way that you are showing up in the world. So we thank you.
I appreciate it.
For blessing us.
I pass the praises up so the guidance can keep coming down.
If we are just the vessels. So thank you all for joining us on today's episode. Please feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. And if there's any nuggets that you feel deeply connected to from this episode, please drop it in the comment. Drop an insight that came to you from listening to this episode. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.